Hello, everyone. Oftentimes on this show, we we talk about issues that concerns us as women, and we always address all these issues from the perspective of a woman. As you all know, this show is by a woman for women. It's a platform for women to come and express themselves. And on today's episode, we'll be doing something out of the norm. We'll be talking to men. We'll be asking them their own views and opinion about issues that we've dealt with in the past 1 year. And we are really, really super excited about today's episode. Welcome to Real Talk with Odun. My name is still Odun Akerele, and I am excited to be coming to you this afternoon with my friends, my brothers, my pastor. And we'll try as much as possible to keep to time, but we might extend a bit further, a tiny bit further than 1 hour. So thank you all for always coming, for always tuning in, and we are just going to go right straight into today's episode of the show. All right, let me add a bit of life to it because it's like, you know.
That's how the
All
afternoon
right.
drag.
Yes. So I have a studio guest, Aki Akoni. Some of you are familiar with Aki if you know our other show, which is Viewpoints. He's a regular on Viewpoints. And I'm going to give him the floor to introduce himself first. Welcome to Real Talk, Aki, for the first time.
Is it first time? Okay.
Yep, on Real
Hey.
Talk.
Do.
Yes.
Thanks for having me, Aki Akani. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for always doing this with us. Okay, and all the way from Nigeria, I have my pastor with us, Pastor Nerua Edokpolo. Pastor Edokpolo is a coach, he's a mentor, he's actually a marriage counselor for Simbis, and so you are free to send in all your marriage-related questions today. Welcome to the show, Pastor Edokpolo.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very
I
much.
really appreciate your time today. Okay, our next guest is Mike Abdul, all the way from Nigeria. He really doesn't need an introduction, but I'm just going to say his name. Okay? Mike Abdul, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Thank you. We know how busy you are. You actually just finished the show. You just finished the program and you had to rush down to do this. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. And our other guest is all the way from the United Kingdom. I was about to say United States. Can you imagine? All the way from the United Kingdom, my friend and brother from way back, going almost 30 years now. You know, Damola Ademola used to be a thorn in my flesh, though. Damola Ademola, welcome.
I'm glad I'm no more a thorn in your flesh. It's been about
Yes.
30 years.
One beautiful
Hi,
lady decided
everyone.
to
Good
take you out
evening.
off my hand. So,
Yeah, it's my pleasure being here. Yeah,
Thank
it's fantastic to see everyone.
thank you so much. So, let's just go address the first thing. We are going to try and, you know, I like a mellowed topic. When we are like mellowed, we laugh a bit, but then we are going to deal with the serious stuff and then come down to the more relaxed aspect of what we have to talk about today, okay? So we are going to start with a serious one. I know it might not be serious to some people, but on the last episode of Viewpoints, we almost didn't come to blow with each other. And it was because we were talking about church and politics. And I have friends that have the opinion that we cannot take politics out of the church, and other people were like, yes, it can actually be done. So that's the first thing I want us to talk about today, and I'm going to talk to Dr. Pastor Dr. first because he is like this. Like I said, he's a mentor, and he's been on a lot of political shows because I know he's a regular on Channels TV back home in Nigeria. And so I'm going to ask you, sir, being a pastor, do you think it's possible for us to take politics out of the church?
Okay, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to spend this time with you and this very august audience. Is it possible to take politics from the church? I mean, I guess it depends on which aspect of politics are we talking about. Politics is really part and parcel of us as human beings. But when you talk about maybe party politics, where people, you know, campaign for one party or the other, and try to espouse the benefits of one party over the other, I would say, yes, the church shouldn't get involved to that extent. Why? Because in your church, there will be members of all parties. So you must be seen to be neutral. You must be seen to be playing above board. All right. So a church shouldn't get to the extent where, we have like take Nigeria for example. PDP versus APC inside the church. But go from there. Should a church encourage its people to be politically literate? Yes, it should. Should a church encourage its people to get involved in politics? Yes, it should. Should a church, encourage people to get, for example, the Nigerian context, get your voters card, go out there and vote, choose the right people? Yes, it should. Should a church educate its people on the importance of, political awareness and activity? Yes, it should. I hope I've been able to explain my position regarding that question. Thank you.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you so much. So I know you were one of the people on the show I just mentioned. I want your own view about taking the church or taking politics out of the church.
Yeah, so just listening to everything Pastor talked about, and I strongly agree with it in terms of the responsibility of the church, in terms of educating the people, right? But when it's all said and done, one thing I strongly believe is the fact that the world that we live in today is a tight connection between politics and church. And what do I mean by that? In terms of ideology, right? So our ideology are shaped by several things. How we grew up, culture, family, and even political influences. So also on the flip side, political parties, especially in the U.S. here, same thing. They are based on ideology, right? You have certain parties that are extreme left, certain parties that are extreme right, and sometimes, and most of the time, because those ideology align between political parties and the church, especially church leaders, whether directly or indirectly, whether on purpose or not, I feel like church leaders use their own ideology to indirectly influence their followers. I remember there was a group meeting I was a while back during the last election where someone wasn't directly saying vote for a Republican, but was saying, well, the sitting president at that particular time was pro-life. So it's like, okay, and because as Christians, abortion is a hot topic, right? So it's like, oh, because this particular person is pro-life, then
That's the reason enough
I'm going to vote for them. And I'm going, okay, pro-life, baby born, baby not born. But then if you look at what's happening at the southern border, where young kids are actually dying. So you're pro-life about the baby that is not yet born, but the 8-9 years old that are dying at the border, they are not pro-life about that, right? So that's one of the reasons that I strongly believe that, in as much as from a party standpoint, right, party politics, maybe we can try to separate religion from church, but from an ideology, politics from religion, but from an ideology standpoint, I think it's just difficult to do. So almost impossible in my opinion.
Mike Abdul, let me come back to you. Do you think is it a possibility for us to separate the two? Is it something that the church can do, in your own opinion?
Well, it's a difficult call to make. It's very difficult and almost impossible for church to be like totally removed from politics. Yeah, as much as we do not think that this was in politics, but honestly, he shook the politics of his time. He really did. And he was also outspoken in things that affected people, and in turn also affected politicians. He was outspoken about it. So more or less, whether we want to try to remove him from it or not, he was involved. So I think that the church will always be involved. But honestly, I'm going to pick it from pastor's point of view. I think where it will all go wrong is in being partisan. Doing party politics. You understand? That's where the church will have issues. That's where the church will have problems. But there's no how our teachings cannot stay in church. If they cannot influence our society, there's no point. So, and if they have to influence society, then we're in for it.
All right. Thank Thank you so much. Damola, your own thoughts about that? Or let me flip the question for you, Damola. So, we know because, like Pastor Dapalo mentioned, we notice when someone is campaigning back home in Nigeria, they tend to go to the church because, of course, they have a huge followers and all that. Now, when something is not working out or when something goes wrong, people expect the church to step in and correct whatsoever thing that is not working. So, should the church be held accountable for the failure of the government?
So I'll start by answering the first question, which is, I agree with my brothers. The church, the politics cannot be taken out of the church. And both are intertwined, because if you look at the history of politics, the problem that politics is trying to solve, those problems are almost the same principles that Christianity is based on. So Christianity, we look after our people. We have to love our neighbors among ourselves. We do well in the community and things like that. Those are the principles that politics is trying to sort of institute and say, hey, you know what? Let's make sure that everyone is okay. Let's make sure there's fairness in the community and everyone is okay. Now, that said, I think the issue we have is bipartisan politics. All right, so, or being partisan. The church cannot afford to be partisan. The church needs to be bipartisan. And that is, I think, is the problem. Now, going to your question of, should the church be blamed? No, I don't think the church should be blamed, but I see why churches are being blamed. It is because I think historically, churches they found themselves on towing party lines. And that's why the blame comes back to the church. Now, if churches are able to not tow party lines and just be, hey, educate, like Pastor said, educate our people, do sort of education, electorates, make sure you let people understand the civil responsibilities and all. If churches stick to that, then it'd be easy not to blame the church. But once churches start towing the lines of parties, then very easy to blame the church.
What do you think, okay, about what you just said? Because that I've actually never thought about it in that line.
Yeah. So again, I think it goes back to what I said earlier. How do you tow party lines? Through your ideology, right? Your ideology aligns to a particular political party. And I think that's where we get ourselves in trouble. And then also, part of the responsibilities of the leaders within the church is also to provide guidance to the people. And unfortunately, sometimes when people are at a cross in terms of what political parties to swing to, they might look at their church leader or church leadership for guidance again, which ends up being influenced by ideology. And again, in an ideal world, the church can educate. But in today's world, I mean, when Obama was campaigning, Obama went to churches. When Buhari was campaigning, went to churches. When Biden was campaigning, Trump went to church. I mean, there's that video of Trump giving offering, right? So in as much as we think it can be separated, I don't think so it can.
In your opinion, it cannot be bipartisan.
I don't think so, because everybody gravitates towards one political party or the other, which is based on their social construct, right? So I don't think it's either you don't bring anybody to your church, or you bring both parties to your church if you're trying to practice bipartisan. Also, I hate to say this, right? Also, in the process of doing that too, you have to be also conscious and cautious in terms of, if your church is a big follower of party A, and you bring party B in, and church members start to leave. It's not good for business either, right? So again, I just feel like there's just a strong connection. between politics and religion.
All right. Thank you so much. Pastor Napola, let me ask you the same question of blaming the church. Like someone just said earlier, they said churches are being blamed because they meddle in politics and political candidates' endorsements. and to this person believes that's why I'm going to hold the church responsible. So is that valid?
I would say that I sympathize with the church because heads or tail, church will be found guilty either way. It's interesting. Is again, I use the Nigerian context. Let's leave the church, for example, and look at traditional rulers. All right. Now, traditional rulers don't have a role, in governance. They're not officially, expected to be partisan. But yet, when things go wrong, government will say, hold the traditional ruler responsible. So sometimes the church suffers the same fate because everybody says church shouldn't get involved in politics, even though that statement has different meanings depending on who is talking to whom, etc., etc. But then when people then misbehave, people then say, well, hold this church responsible. You know what I mean? To the extent that, so I think for the church, what the church should do is use your influence in such a way that you can actually control people who label themselves as being part of you. All right. So what's happening now is that politicians would use the church when it's convenient. And then when they misbehave, nobody can call them to order. So should the church be held responsible? For me, I feel I'm sympathetic towards the church because whether the church wants to be held responsible or not, it will be held responsible. You know what I mean? People are going to say he's a Baptist, he's a Pentecostal, he's a Methodist, he's a Catholic. You know what I mean? He's a Muslim, he's this, he's that. When they say he's a Pentecostal, what are they saying? They are saying that, it's like saying, what's your father's name? Do you get it? I mean, the moment I say my father's name is Edokolo, if I misbehave, what will you say? Edokolo didn't bring him up well. Now, whether Edokolo is responsible for my misbehavior or not, it's secondary. You know what I get? So therefore, the thing to do is, if Edokolo were still alive, he would say, son, as you go out there, behave well, so you don't embarrass me. Because if I misbehave, people are going to then say, where is his father? Who is Edokolo? So in like manner, therefore, the church might as well caution those who carry their surname into the space to say, please behave yourselves. All right. And if they don't behave, church should be able to call them to order. So, I feel for the church because we say don't get involved in politics. So if they don't get involved in politics, and yet when politicians misbehave, what do people ask for? They call their surname. He's Methodist, he's Catholic, he's Anglican, he's this, he's that. So, it's a tough place to be. So I sympathize with the church.
All right. Thank you so much.
Give me 30 seconds to play something up real quick. So I guess the question I was supposed to be answering is, should the church be blamed? I think once you open your door and you invite a party into your church, I think at that standpoint there's a level of accountability that comes with it. As a man, if I open my door into the door to my house to let anybody in, whatever transpires through that visit, in as much as it might not be my fault, I think once I open that door and I let that channel in, I think there's a level of accountability from that standpoint. So as it relates to whether separating or not, once you open your door and you say Buhari or Shibanjo or whatever, come in and they hold the mic, I think at that point there's a level of accountability.
I think that somehow piggyback to what Pastor Dokolo said about making sure that they do the right thing.
So you don't have any
but you don't. Yes. Anyway, so obviously this is actually meant to be a topic on its own. So let's just move on because I'm going to move on to finances and career. I have two finance analysts sitting with me, yourself and Damola, and so I'm going to ask questions that women. There was a time we did a question and answer, and a lot of women were concerned about this issue of joint accounts in the home. And it boils down to the fact that the people that were more concerned about it are the breadwinners. Maybe they are earning more and they are contributing more, and they felt that they are being taken advantage of. So I'm going to ask Damola, let me start with, because you just speak. Damola, let me ask you about this issue. You've been married 12 years now, I think. And so I want to ask this.
Accurate.
Yes. This issue of joint accounts. Do you think it's a must for couples to have joint accounts?
I think it's a must. I think it's, but at the same time, it is what works for individuals that I'll say. No marriage is the same. The same way we're not supposed to be the same. We came together from different backgrounds and different ideologies, different social construct, different all sorts, and we came together as one. Now, what that means is that we've got to sit together and communicate and plan together what our roadmap to life together will be. One of them will be finances, right? And how you implement those financial plans. Again, the success or the failure of it is equally shared. The yoke has to be equal. Whether you're earning more, whether the man or the woman, whoever it is earning more or earning less, it doesn't matter. You both have equal responsibility to make sure it works. And so that's why, for me, having a joint account has never been a problem, has never been a concern, has never been a big deal at all. But I understand why some couple may not really embrace the concept of having a joint account. Now, I think joint account makes it easy to manage joint finances. So you both have a mortgage to pay. I suppose you live in a house together, and so you have to pay for that. You would have some joint responsibilities on your children. Your children go for activities. If your children go to fee-paying schools, it has to be paid. And even though someone may be earning more, or maybe someone is not even earning at all, I think it shows a sense of we are in this together. You know, it's a partnership. We're in this together, and what that shows is, look, I put in it. It doesn't matter the percentage. Okay, you can discuss all of that depending on your earning power and your responsibilities outside of the marriage. Some people have responsibilities to their, extended family, siblings and all sorts. I may want to use money for some things for myself, and those ones can be taken care of by individual bank accounts. All right, but I think the concept of joint account, for me, from where I'm sitting, I'm a traditionalist, is non-negotiable. As far
Okay.
as I'm concerned.
I want to ask Mike. Now you mentioned something, Damola, about having a separate account, and like someone just said on here, they said there is a video. I actually saw the video of Steve Harvey where he was saying that a couple should have 4 bank accounts, 1 joint account, 1 savings account, if I think, and then individual separate accounts. Now, this is what I want to ask Mike Abdul. Now, do you think there should be separate accounts? Because I think the bulk of the issue is because women, like when we address this question, most of them just believe once they have that joint account, they are not allowed to have a separate account out of the joint account. So should that be happening in a home?
Wow. Is that for Mike?
Yes, please.
Okay. It's amazing. I see. It's just what it is. I think it's good. It's important to set joint financial goals. Even that said, right? The individuals also have responsibility, to extended families. They have, a lot of other things. And I've witnessed where extended families do not expect that you share what you do for them with your wife. All right? They feel embarrassed, because your wife or your husband feels that, okay, this money belongs to us, right? Do they want to kill you with responsibilities, and stuff like that? And the extended family, especially maybe your parents, for instance, embarrassed with that knowledge of that, they don't want to be seen as causing problems between the two of you and stuff like that. So they may demand that, please, you don't have to share it with your wife. Please try and protect our integrity. All that happens, and so it won't be the same for everybody. It's a question of can two work together except they agree. It's really a question of that. And you see, ideally, it is so sweet to have it all together. Ideally, that is the ideal. But eventually, cases come up like every day, and you seem to want to really sit down and measure if this ideal works for everybody. I think it will be different for different couples.
All right, thank you so much. Pastor Okolo, I'm going to read out a question because I think this actually covers what this joint account issue is. This person said, I earn more than my husband, but he spends carelessly. He dishes money out without my consent, and most of the time, we are out of funds before the month runs out. I am scared of bringing the issue up because they will say it's because I earn more than him, and I also don't want to bruise his ego. So, what do I do? So, what advice would you give this person when it comes to joint account?
I mean, if clearly one party is not prudent, is not wise when it regards finances, then joint accounts, just because you want to have joint account, will not be in your interest. So for me, I would say that, like with most other things in life, the end sometimes should justify the means. All right. So the idea of a joint account is that both of us are reasonable people. Like Damola said, we're in this together, and we're chipping in, it's a journey. So, but when that foundational basis is not there, then like in the question you've asked, that lady must be wise enough, because otherwise they will end up in penury. You know what I mean? They will end up in penury. So both the woman, the man, and the children will suffer at the end. The man might even come around later and say, oh, but you should have been wise enough not to give me all the money now. I wasn't wise. By which time it will be too late. So don't go after a joint account just because you heard that people do joint accounts. Will it serve in your circumstance? If it will not serve in your circumstance, then don't do it. In fact, I would say hide some money from your spouse, so long as in hiding it, you are not depriving your spouse. I know a couple who today are living off the wife's investments. They're in their 70s now. When they were much younger, the man was totally indisciplined with money, and they're believers. So she didn't let him know all that she had. You get it? So now in their old age, he's grateful to God that she was wise enough to hide some money and do something. Yes. So if she had followed the joint account, they will both be in penury now in their old age. So, if one party is not willing or is unable to, rise up, to step up to the plate, then the other party should be wise enough so that you can preserve something for your later days. Otherwise, you both suffer.
Thank you so much, sir. So, Aki, your own thoughts about this too? Do you think?
So, Steve Harvey was wrong. You should have 5 accounts. The 5th one is your investment account. Okay. I guess it's so rich, you didn't think about that. All right. So, I think everybody has really touched on this. So, joint account or no joint account. So, to me, I look at money as a resource, right? So, you use it to do stuff. So, that's number one. And from a marital standpoint, you have financial responsibility. And through financial responsibilities, you have to have financial sustainability, which means enough money to sustain you. So I think the issue, based on the question that was asked, is obviously there's no goal in that house. I don't think there's financial goal. If there is, then there's no accountability. So and do I look at finances? From a medical standpoint, if I'm sick, I go to a doctor. But sometimes when we're financially sick, we don't know who to go to, right? And that's where there are financial planners and financial managers out there that we can talk to. And if a financial manager puts or breaks down your finances, your spending, and everything into perspective, and they extrapolate that out, and they let you understand how much you're wasting, and they let you understand by if you continue at this rate, your kids won't be able to eat. I think a man that is wasteful will probably scale back a little bit. So that's number one. Number two, also if you have a plan and you have a way of determining or telling your money where to go, and even if you budget that wastefulness into it, and at the end of the year, because for me, at the end of the year, you have to always look at the summary and I say, Uncle, you can't believe this year you spent $15,000 on whatever his addiction is. I think being able to put a number to it, I think will allow him to just go, okay, wait though, I'm being irresponsible. Unless it's just completely irresponsible. And that kind of a person will actually be irresponsible. Exactly. That irresponsibility will show up in other areas, which is a bigger problem, right? So if it's just a financial irresponsibility, I think transparency in terms of, okay, you're wasting money, usually helps that. Because, $25 a year, $15 a year, $200 a year, it goes by fast and it accumulates, right? And before you know it, you've blown through 1,000 without even knowing it. So I think having a system that tracks and summarizes it allows to provide transparency. So just to summarize everything I said, right? So the first thing is having a long-term goal and having a plan towards that long-term goal, and then having a way to stop and review how you're doing against that plan. And also from a monthly, yearly spending standpoint, having a summary. They send you your bank statement for a reason at the end of the month, right? Look at it, review it. Husband, this is how much you spent this year. Electricity has gone up, but we spent 2,000. Okay, let's find another provider, right? And things like that. So, but in that situation, I think that man is probably irresponsible enough in other areas, not just finances. It's just showing up in finances. And then I feel like I need to say this, especially for people that earn more. My friend told me one thing the other day, and it really hit me. He said money is loud. And what does that mean? Usually, the person that earns more, by you not even talking, by you not saying anything, your money is already loud. It's already speaking volume to the point where the person that is not earning enough is already feeling some kind of way. So to sustain a marriage, try to be cautious if you are the one earning more, in terms of just how you go about your business from a financial standpoint.
Okay. Even that, if I agree, money is loud. But going by this person's question, she wasn't actually even able to bring it up with the spouse because she said because she earns more, it's stopping her from actually speaking up. So I don't think I don't know. I'm just going off based off on the question that obviously I don't think she was the in your face kind of a person because she can't even address it. She can't even bring it up with her husband.
I think most men feel uncomfortable when their wife earns more.
Okay, I think that's why we should actually go talk about this gender role things, right? Okay. So Pastor Doko, let me come to you about this gender role thing because I think this idea that a man should be the only one earning more in the home, it is one of the issues that, like I usually tell people these days, is something that we've been conditioned to think as, or to see, or to expect. So the issue starts from, if I'm not the one providing and it's you, then there is a problem. So is it enough? Is it a must for the man to be the big earner in the home?
Okay, maybe I should start by saying that I particularly for us in Nigeria, I think we're in a very difficult place right now. We are confused regarding, roles, responsibilities. You must have heard in the news what happened in the parliament where all the bills. I I didn't even know that women suffered that level of, what's the word? Disenfranchisement. I didn't even know that, but there are men who, who are confused. What do I mean by that? society is saying a woman is as able as you as a man. And some of these guys are like, where I came from, when a man is talking, a woman does not talk, that kind of thing. I mean, I was in the northern part of Nigeria a couple of weeks ago, and I made a comment. I was training a group of people, and I said, oh, in my house, the children are out of the house. So, I mean, if I get to the kitchen and there are plates there, I wash. It was as if I poured hot water on the room. The guys were like, you wash, a man? And for a moment, I lost my class.
Wow.
You get? Until I had to say, you know what, guys, let's leave that matter and let's continue. Because I was about to start a riot in that class. Why?
Oh, wow.
Because some of the men in that room couldn't wrap their minds around the fact that you, a man, you are washing. You get it? So we're confused right now about where should we put our women? If we allow them the way they are going, they will rule over also. Personally, so for me, the way I answer this question is, and thankfully, the Bible is the guide. I mean, that's my guide. If you read the scriptures, there are expectations from a man, particularly in a marriage relationship. Please take note. All right. In Christ Jesus, they are both male and female. There's no difference. He made them male and female. There's no difference. All right. So, for example, but in a marriage relationship, God expects the man to provide. It says the man that does not provide for his household is worse than an infidel. Do you get it? It didn't say the woman that does not provide for her household. So there is, as a Christian, that, I honor God when I provide for my household. Now, providing for my household does not mean when I become a millionaire. No, it means within the means that God has given to me, I prioritize my family. I meet the needs of my family. It is the expectation of God that as a man, I should provide for my family. Okay? So from that perspective, so the man is supposed to be the provider. Now, if it turns out that your wife earns more money than you, incidentally, when we got married, that was our situation. My wife earned more than me at the beginning, but it was never an issue. We sit down together at the end of every month and we decide this is how much we have, this is how we're going to spend it. I didn't lord it over her. I didn't feel any less a man because she was having more money. Did you get it?
Yeah.
Because my claim to being a man was not tied just to money. All right? My manhood was not just money. It's about, how you provide leadership. It's about, how you are a leader, spiritually, you are a leader in terms of conduct and behavior. You are protective of your wife. All right. So, so for me, if those fundamentals are in place, all right, if you truly honor God, if you truly love your wife, it becomes irrelevant who brings more money in at the end of the month. Like Damola was saying, you already have an understanding. Okay. So each of us, okay, so I will bring 10%, you will bring 10%. My wife's 10% might be double mine. Do you get it? But if we've had that agreement, then we're good to go. And like the gentleman with you, is also saying that, yes, so long as, there is mutual respect, so long as there is a goal, both of us want to honor God in our relationship, it becomes less and less important whose paycheck is bigger than the other person's own. But when all these other things are not already in place, it's like, if you don't lay proper foundation, whatever you build on it is challenged. So, if you just wake up in the morning and you go straight to money, boom, who's earning more, who's earning less? That's a wrong conversation. All right. Prior to that point, you must have established, who am I to you? All right. As a man, I have promised, if I have sworn a vow, remember on your wedding day, you swore, I will take care of this woman, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health. All right. So if you maintain that, if you honor the vows that you have made, then when money comes in, money does not distort, your relationship to that extent. Yeah, I think I'll stop then others can chip in. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. So, Bishop Mike, let me come to you for now. If you want to advise a young single guy that is going through courtship, when it comes to joint accounts, what advice would you give them? A young upcoming guy that is in courtship, maybe the the fiancé or whatever is earning big, earning more, is like, I mean, is securing the bank than the guy. What advice would you give the person if he comes to you and say, what do you think about joint accounts, to a single upcoming guy?
Well, I would be quick to tell him that it's not compulsory. All right. It's a I feel it's a good idea, but honestly, it is not like an institution. Like you must do it. You understand me? So I think a lot of people already do not they don't know what the idea is, and because you don't know the idea, you are in confusion. You don't know what marriage is. Honestly, marriage counseling is powerful. People go to marriage counseling for 3 months together. They go for 6 months together. It's you don't go to a job without training. If you go to a job without training, it will show eventually. You bring the result will show that you're not trained. Marriage is that involving that you also need training for. So it's beyond just sitting down and talking about money and talking about all of it. You truly need counseling. You need training. The two of you have to go for it, and all of these issues are provided for in those trainings. They can be very rigorous, but then it will test how long it will test for you how patient you can be in the marriage. You cannot be patient in 3 months of marriage counseling and training. Then you never start, because you are doing this for a lifetime. Something you are going to go in for a lifetime. I think you should actually get training for 3 months. That's not too much. In fact, you should be doing the training for 2 years, in my opinion. Because you are going in for a lifetime already. So I think I'll quickly and it's not even a quick fix, but it can't fix nothing. I would advise that it is really, really not compulsory. It is not like it is mandatory that you have to do it. You guys have to come to a place of agreement on it. You must have, like I said before, joint financial goals. You have to have it, or else there will be that friction. There will be that friction. It's something you have to settle right from the word go and take it from there. But concluding it, I think marriage counseling is the most powerful thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So, a lot of comments. I just want to take a second to acknowledge the people online. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Sister Okpa. Thank you all. Thank you, Shola. Thank you, all of you. I see you all. I see all the comments. But I'm trying to just pack everything we have into the short time that we have today. So I might not be coming back to all your comments online, but I see them and I appreciate them all. So, yeah, Damola, let me ask you this about well, there is this I won't call it issue, but I think it's a major issue that you see almost every year. It's an issue of my husband wants me to quit my job. I'm talking about career now. My husband wants me to quit my job, okay, because he wants me to take care of the home front. I have always been a career lady and can't see myself not working. So, what do you think? Someone asked here, I saw that question there. They said, why are men scared of their wives working? So, do you think that is an issue? I saw the question. I can't scroll. It scrolled through. So, why is that an issue?
So, clearly, you asked. You said, "Is that an issue?" Mm-hmm. Clearly, it's an issue. For the person that raised the question, clearly it's an issue. But I do say this again: different strokes, different folks. I've said it earlier that it is about communicating, having joint, like Mr. Mike said, having joint goals, right? Aligning together. When the Bible says, "Do not be unequally yoked," I don't think it's only about someone who
marry a Christian or don't marry a
the
Christian.
same level of faith. Yeah. Exactly. It is about every facet of your marriage, right? From how many children would we like to have, to what would we like to do in our 60s, our retirement? What do we see our lives being like? How do we want to bring our children? All those kinds of things. They all come together to make, look, this is where we're going. Now, that is one of the fundamental conversations that a married couple need to have. How are we going to be earning a living? How do we come together? Right? How do we contribute together? Now, for some people, it's an issue. For me, it's never been an issue, like Pastor said earlier. Like he talked about his experience when he married at the start of his marriage, where his wife was earning more. For me, it's never been an issue. In fact, I believe I'm a feminist, and I say it with my, with my
full chest,
with my full chest. Yeah. And that's because of my personal experience. I was brought up by a single mother, and because of that, I do empathize and I sympathize with the woman, right? The figure, the woman, and as a result, I think that we're equal in the eyes of God, like Pastor said earlier, and women as well as men have purpose. We all have purpose. We all have reasons why we exist. We all have reasons why we live a life. Now, for me, my wife, I tell my wife every time she cares to listen, I cannot have a full-eyes wife. I'm sorry, I can't, right? God gave you a brain for a reason. God gave me a brain for a reason. And as a result, we come together. You make best of your abilities. You went to school for a reason. These things are for reasons, right? You didn't do it so that you can stay in a house and bring up my children. Like, again, I'm going to go back to Pastor. I am hands-on. I would help, you would help when you have to go and fulfill your purpose, right? That purpose that we've jointly talked together about. You know what makes me tick, occupationally or career-wise. I know what makes you tick. I know your purpose. I know what you want to do. I know your dreams. It makes it easier, right? And so my advice is have that conversation together before, Mr. Mike said it, marriage counseling. Talk about it at the start.
Talk about everything.
Aligned. Exactly. It's communication from the start. If you do not learn to communicate well, I'm sorry, the foundation for that marriage it's just not right. From the
Thank you so much, and big ups to our feminists in the house. Hey. Okay, so before I come to Yakin, they said there are questions up there that needs to be addressed. But if you can please send the questions back, because the scroll up fast, yeah. Or you can actually send the question. There is a pinned post that's saying send questions at slido.com, and the code is 1960. So if you can please send those questions, then I'll read it out to our guest here. And they said, okay, yeah, they're saying up feminists, so that's for you. And they are saying thank you, Pastor. Okay, so please read the question asked earlier. What question? Is it the one of I earn my husband? I earn more than my husband, but he spends carelessly. If you can, yeah, we have, but they are asking. So I don't know. One of the crew members, they are asking that I repeat the question. Okay, so let's move. Let me come to you. You are a career-oriented man. I know you. So would you buy the idea of my friend quitting a job or not working, or just saying that, okay, come take care of the off? I don't want you to work, just to take care of the infant.
So the first thing, let me crack a joke, right? Like when guys hang out, I don't think we have a conversation where we go, hey guys, let's tell our wives to quit their jobs so that they can be stay-at-home wives, right? We don't have those conversations, right? And even though I'm a finance person, I'm a big student of psychology, right? And I strongly believe in social construct and ideology. And we're talking about Brother Abdul was talking about marriage counseling. To me, like marriage counseling, by the time you get to marriage counseling, you've picked a date, you've done all those things. Yeah. Marriage counseling, unfortunately, becomes a process. Just actually, right? And things like that. And where social construct and ideology doesn't lie, so you keep your eyes open. The man that is telling you to quit your job, where did that idea come from? Why? Is his mom a stay-at-home mom? Because we ignore these things, right? We ignore all these things, and unfortunately, the person that you have married is influenced by certain things. Is influenced by different ideas. Is influenced by, especially by home. They always say, if you know what your wife will look like, look at the mom. So if the mom doesn't cook, there's a probability that your wife, will order out as well, right? do you have a problem with it?
With that.
You know, so again, I'm a big believer in marriage counseling. Don't get me wrong, but like what are people doing when they are dating? Are we just going to the movies and eating popcorn? Because the purpose of dating is to identify, you know, to see if this person's ideology and social aligns with mine, right? And if it doesn't, am I okay with it?
To Israel.
You know, so but unfortunately, people ignore all that. I remember there was a girl I used to talk to a long time ago before I got married, and we're talking about this money stay-at-home thing, and you know we're going back and forth. And I think she made a comment like, if you earn enough money, me I'll just stay at home, Jerry. I said, look, I don't care if I make $10 million a month. You will
You're
work.
not staying at home.
You see what I'm saying? And but right there, I knew where a social construct was coming from, and I've known the girl a long time ago. So I'm looking, okay, wait, mommy didn't really work like that. Now I get it, and I went my way. I went my way, right? Because again, marriage counseling can't fix that, in my own opinion. If marriage counseling will just be a process. So my advice to anybody out there that is dating, this thing is more than movies and popcorn.
Yep.
Keep your eyes open. You know, it's not about love is blind. It's about just paying attention.
No, love is long time love that is blind. Love these days is wide open.
Okay, so like it's about paying attention to the makeup of that person that you're trying to get married to. And if you identify certain flaws, then ask yourself, am I okay with this? And then you make your decision.
All right, thank you so much. So, Pastor Nokpala, let me come back to you just to give a comment on what Aki and Damola just said and Mike Abdul.
These guys are not just financial, but they're also marriage counselors. Yeah, I think you've nailed it on the head. If it doesn't smell like coffee,
it
then it's
smells like
not
a
coffee.
rat.
So if those things are not in place, please don't go further. I mean, if you are not yet married, run for your dear life. All right, because like you said, you are not just marrying the frame, the physical frame. You are marrying the social construct, the person's ideology, etc. There are people who have lived in America or in England for donkey years, and they are still primitive.
Yeah.
They're still they're still very connected to their village mentality. Even though they've been there for so long, you would think that exposure should have broadened their mind, but not so. So I would say, if you're not yet in the marriage, please take a cue. If you sense, I was talking to a young lady, we're at a function yesterday, and we spoke, she just for a few minutes, and I said to her, in trying to distill who to marry, look for three things, and I said, does he know where he's going? Does he fear God? Are you friends? And then I said to her, how does he treat people around him, particularly people that are beneath him? You know what I mean? The gate man, the waiter, all right, etc., etc. In the same way, how does he treat money? So if you can't live with it while you are in courtship, you will not be able to live with it when you are married. So run away from it. I mean, where is this coming from that a woman should be at home? Where did you get that from? From a Christian perspective, Proverbs 31 woman, which we all talk about,
woman,
was
yes.
She was a hardworking woman. The Bible says she wakes up before dawn. No lazy person wakes up before dawn. Why will a housewife wake up before dawn to do what? She's not going anywhere. So I don't know where they're getting that idea from. Surely not the Bible. So I don't know.
All right, thank you so much, Dan. So this is on a lighter note. Someone said, I guess Eve wasn't working. That's why the serpents could get her attention. So that's a joke. And Japa, Eve goals don't align. Okay, they're saying God bless you all and thank you. So I'm going to try. Please. Okay, our time.
Ready, so we'll go a little bit over.
Yeah. So let's talk about infidelity. Now, as a woman, I am a woman. I am a feminist to the core. Yes, I am. So even though I know it's a misconception, is that men cheat more than women. And so the question that I always ask is, one, is it true? Two, why? Is it something that is it part of their formation?
Of a man.
You know, because they always say it Ojuno Shesi for like they'll say it's in the eyes. Once a man sees something, every other thing changes. So I'm going to ask Mike Abdul first. Infidelity and cheating, is it a man's thing?
Well, infidelity and cheating is mankind's thing. Mankind involves man and woman. So because the man that is cheating is not cheating all by himself, he's cheating with a woman. So we cannot say one is doing it more than the other, you know. Even if it's people with 6 women, you might want to calculate it as one man, people with 6 different women.
So the ratio favors the man. It's more on the woman's side than the...
supposed to look at it like that, but I think, honestly, man and women, men and women cheat is just what it is. You know, quite unfortunately, what it is. You see, I said something, and I said marriage counseling. See, I don't think marriage counseling means that you are going to get married. I don't think so. You know, I think it just means that further know each other. It's for me, it's not even counseling. It's training actually. You further really know each other and know if it can work. If it can't work, come on. There is nothing wrong with it. But why not just go your separate ways before you divorce? You know, and which is what eventually people will now frown out. You know. So that's it. And back to what your question is on cheating. It is not a man thing. It's a mankind thing. Men and women cheat. That's what it is.
All right, thank you so much. So, Damola, let me ask you. There is a question. She said, "I feel like my husband is cheating, but I don't have proof, and I don't know how to go about bringing it up." Now, if you have a feeling, because, like I said, women, we always have this thing that we call intuition. Like at times we might be wrong with our intuition, but at times we might be right as well. So now, if you have a feeling that something like that is going, maybe his attitude changed. Maybe he gets angry at everything. He complains about everything. He start coming back late. He changes who he was to something else that you're not familiar with. And the first thing that comes to a woman's mind is obviously seeing another woman. So now, how do you bring up this issue as a guy? Now, I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying that as a guy, how would you want a woman to bring up this issue of, I think you're cheating?
Again, I'm big on communication, right? And you probably can pick that up from, it's a recurring theme in all my responses so far. I'm very big on communicating. Now, if you've never been communicating quite well as a couple, then finding a way to sort of break that question or to sort of find a segue in, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be a humongous task. But if you're already communicating as a couple, then sitting someone down, look, I'm a talker and I believe in talking, problem half shared is half solved, the way to say it. I believe so much in that. If you talk about it, even if, I know that question is very difficult because someone asking it is thinking, you know what if he denies it?
Or what
do I do next? Right? Yes. Now, Yoruba people say, "Abere kinshino," right? You will get one answer. Is either he or she accept and say yes or no. Now, if it is no, now you have to give that person the benefit of the doubt, because that is what marriage is predicated upon. It is based on trust. You have to give that benefit of doubt and believe what that person has said. Now, except, of course, you do have hard evidences. If you do have hard evidences, then you have to bring those hard evidences on board when you have that conversation. But the short answer to your question is, there's no other way to bring it than to talk about it, to ask the question. You know your partner. Some people, their methods of communicating, some people are literal communicators, inferior communicators. They'll be like, I infer, you don't, so you know the communication partner, you know the pattern, and you either go straight to the point and say, look, you've changed. I have not don't understand what's going on. And can we talk about something that I feel? Is there something else going on? You can segue into it. Some of us have the gift of the gab, right? More than others, right? So if you don't know, now another way to do it might be that you might have to actually, you would pray about it. This is this, and I'm sure Pastor will probably segue into that. You should also pray about it. If you feel these things, go to your Father in heaven, speak about it, talk to God, ask God for the best way to approach this. But going back, even God will not come down and say, hey, I'm here, husband, have you cheated? Your wife needs to ask a question. It would have to be communicated. You have to have that conversation. It's tough. It's the ideal thing. It is not easy, but you have to have it.
All right. Thank you so much, Damla. So I'm coming to you, Akim, but someone just said 90% of the time our intuition is right. And then another person said the 10% can actually, the 10% that is wrong can actually break your home. So let me come back to you with this issue of cheating and your own thoughts about this question.
All right. So for me, so when you talk about infidelity, right? I mean, unless somebody is just a serial sex addict, infidelity in marriage, in my own opinion, is a symptom of a bigger issue or an underlying issue. And I appreciate what Damola said about communication. Unfortunately, I think most of the time the issues that resulted to infidelity, by the time it gets to infidelity, if there was communication before, hopefully, again, like I said, I'm trying to differentiate between the habitual cheat or serial addict. So I think there are two approaches. Number one, always you've got to pray, right? You got to pray for guidance. If communication is still there, you can approach. And I agree with that person. 90% your intuition is right. The 10% can break your home. If I'm giving someone an advice, your significant other has an accountability partner. They have a friend. A friend that they listen to, a friend that hopefully is matured enough and knows how to present issues. I would advise taking that part, right? Taking that path. Hopefully, the wife is friends with that person. Talk to that person and just say, hey, I know you're this person. You're my husband. You're close. You're this. You're that. There's something that is kind of like disturbing or bothering me. Over the X number of months or years, this is how this person has changed. I'm not 100%. I don't know how to present it because your friend now. You know how he will react, and hopefully that accountability partner can find a way to talk to that person without it blowing back on the wife or blowing back on the home, right? And it's more so from a conversation from not are you cheating or don't stop cheating, but understanding what the bigger implication of that infidelity on the home, right? When I think of infidelity, I always look at David's case and Uriah or Uriah's wife or whatever, and what that meant in his home, even after the fact, right? Without getting into Bible discussion, So I think having an accountability partner that can engage your significant other might be a better approach. Again, 90%, if you have that intuition, you're probably right. Yeah. But I strongly believe infidelity is a symptom of a bigger issue. And that's why the intuition is always right 90% of the time. Because you know a bigger issue already exists. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you, Aki. So, Pastor Adepola, let me come back to you, but then I'm going to ask it in a way of this second question. Yeah, myself and my husband don't just like that. I have this friend at work, a guy that I gist with, and I feel attached to him somehow. In fact, if we don't talk in a day, I miss him and our conversation. Am I cheating? Now, I'm asking that question to go back to what Aki said about a bigger issue. Because now for her, it started with, okay, I don't talk with my husband. And there's someone else that I talk to at work. So I want your opinion on that, sir. Is that cheating? One, on the first question of your intuition, and then the second question of a bigger problem, an underlying problem aside the cheating.
Okay, so if I address this second one of I don't talk to my husband, but there's somebody else, who I mean, Jesus Christ said that adultery is of two types. There is the physical adultery, whereby you actually sleep with somebody else apart from your spouse. Then there's the adultery that takes place in the mind. So already you are cheating on your spouse by what really what is a relationship? Husband and wife, what is it? It's not just the time we spend in bed together. It's the relationship, all right? It's the talking to each other, it's the communicating. So if you take that very vital aspect of our relationship and you are doing it with somebody else, you know what I mean? So for all intents and purposes, you're already in a relationship. You get it? So, you're already cheating. If it has not been consummated, it's only a matter of time. All right? If you progress along that path, it will be consummated at some point. Okay, so don't separate one cheating from the other. Cheating is cheating so long as the best part of you is being shared with a third party. For the fact that you are describing it the way that person has described it is already an indication that there is something that you should be doing with your husband or your spouse that you are doing with somebody else. I mean, you don't come to us and say, well, I don't understand. I drink water from the same dispenser as my colleague in the office. That's not an issue. You know what I mean? You're not going to come and talk about that. Is it okay to drink water from the same dispenser, as the opposite sex? Because it's a non-issue. But by the time you are asking us that, hey, the best of me, I'm spending it with a third party. So it's already an admission that something is wrong. Okay. So the answer to the person's question is yes, you are cheating. You need to fix whatever it is that is making you give your best to another person than to your spouse. Because if marriage was all about sleeping together, then we could be like animals. You get it? It is the talking together, the sharing of our lives. That's really what makes a relationship a relationship. You get it? So if that aspect is not there, then something is wrong. And then the other, I think, what was the first one? There were two things.
The one of intuition, having an intuition that your husband is cheating. How do you approach it?
Yeah, I mean, is it Akin? Like Akin said, but sometimes, and I can tell you this from experience, sometimes you have a partner who does not have anybody that you can call. And that really makes it very, very. So when people come to me and I say, who does your husband respect? And the woman is scratching her head, usually it's tough. And my experience has shown that they will break up, something will go wrong, etc., etc., etc. So if you have an accountability partner, wonderful. Then the man can be, he can be called to order. But in the case where there's nobody you can call that he respects, then I would say to that woman, maybe start with God. Maybe God can intervene, and speak to him. It's very tough when the man doesn't have anybody that you can call. Very, very tough. And I have cases like that, even as I'm speaking to you now, where I become like James Bond, trying to get the guy, trying to let him know that you are doing the wrong thing without letting him know that I'm aware. The wife has come to me, she has come to report, but I cannot call him because the moment you call him, she's in trouble. You see that? And there's nobody that she herself can go and meet. So I try all manner of ways, different things just to get the man to recognize that things are not working well. So it's usually tough if the man doesn't have somebody he respects, somebody he listens to. And there are quite a few guys out there now who are, it's like, I always say God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, God the youth, where the man is the fourth person of the Godhead. There are quite a lot of guys like that, Holy Spirit, Father, Son, Spirit, and then the guy, unquestionable, cannot be spoken to. Usually it doesn't end well. So I sympathize with that woman. I would ask her to seek counsel to know how best to proceed.
All right. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. So I know, yeah, we anyway, okay, Pastor Napola, let me come ask you this so we can move faster and then go around. Then I want to talk about the in-laws. Now, the issue of the in-laws, most women have said that it should actually be handled by the owner of the in-law. Okay, now if I'm the woman and it's my in-laws that are troubling me or that are making life difficult for me, then my husband should step in and fix it. But then it becomes a problem when the husband is not doing that, or when the wife is not doing that, when the owner of the in-law is not setting the boundaries. In this case, she said, my mother-in-law lives with us and she's choking me with her overbearing nature. My husband doesn't seem to understand my frustration. How can I get through to him? I want your opinion on that.
It's a tough one. She would need wisdom, because for the man's mother to be living with him either means that he's very he loves his mother extremely, or the mother has a hold on him that he has not been able to outgrow. So that woman needs ounces and doses of wisdom. It's like walking on eggshell and making sure that none of the shells break. So there is no quick fix. She needs wisdom. That's all. Because, the man's mother is living with him. As far as it's concerned, if not for my mother, there will be no man for you to marry. Do you see that? And my mom is perfect. Because men being men, men don't pick the frequencies that women pick. You know what I mean? We're oblivious to it. A man will just come, a woman will enter a room, she will know something is wrong. A guy will sleep on the error, he won't know there's an error. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that woman will need, wisdom. There's no quick fix. She just needs wisdom.
All right,
and she dare not put herself, she dare not make it, my husband choose between me and your mom. Most guys will choose their mom. Foolishly though, but they will choose their mom.
Wow. Thank you, sir. So Bishop Mike, let me come back to you with that too. With this issue of the in-laws, do you think the men should do more actually? Because most of the times it's very rare for you to see the husband having issues with the in-law. It does happen, but it's not as common as a woman having issues with their in-laws. So do you think the men should do more when it comes to boundaries?
Well, I think every man not to have two women living under his roof. Woman is woman, whether your mom and your wife, they're all the same thing. There was always be friction. Honestly, having your wife and your mother live under the same roof is like having two wives. It's a difficult situation. You really cannot handle it. I think it should, as much as possible, not see it happen. It's amazing that it is not even just your mom. If you have yourself with your wife and your mom's wife, that's another kind of issue. People don't talk about it, but it is huge. It is big. Because women pick frequencies very, very easily. You're not thinking about it now. Unfortunately, your wife is picking frequencies that are good for her, right? And maybe against you. Now you have her mom, who would also be picking frequencies on behalf of the daughter. Then there would also be times when your wife has agreed with you, but your mother-in-law does not like the decision. And will advise your wife, it's foolish. How can you accept that your husband is? And then it's just an issue. You don't want to do it. I think, like Pastor rightly said, it's not something that can be fixed very quickly. It will just cause chaos. It will definitely cause chaos. And then you find yourself causing a divide between mother and child.
Thank you so much. That's another new perspective actually Like we all don't want to agree. Like I said, women, we all don't want to believe we are wired differently from men. But personally, for me, I usually tell people I take myself out of places where we have a lot of women, even though I'm a woman. So I kind of I understand what Mike Abdul just said. So Damola, let me ask you. Let me come back to you with this issue. You is actually perfect for this question because you were raised by your mom, right? And I know you. I know your mom. I know how attached you are to Mama Damola. That's what you call her, to Mama Damola. So let me ask you, were you able to set boundaries with your mom and how did you go about it? Because you are a practical example of what we're talking about. I know you, I know your mom. You were so like attached to her. So how were you able to set those boundaries between your wife and your mother?
I think I'm quite lucky that as close as I am to my mother, my mother is a very understanding woman. She already set those boundaries herself. So I didn't really have to have, or I don't really have to have such conversations with my mother. So I'm quite lucky that I don't have that challenge. Now, Pastor said something, there were two occasions. Pastor said that is either a man loves his mother so much, or he doesn't, or there are issues, he doesn't know how to let go, or something like that, he has mommy issues, right? There's a third option as well that could lead a man to that situation that should be avoided as much as possible. And that situation could be health reasons. Now, if your mother has health challenges, and you're probably the only son or the only child or the only one that has the capacity to look after that, woman who has rightly so, given her all, in most cases, to make sure that you are the person that you become. Now, you don't have a choice, right? Except, of course, you want to try and, I don't know, in these days, in the Western world, you can have nursing homes and all that, put your mother in and things like that, and things like that. You can make extra provisions, right? But there might be financial challenges, right, that could hamper that, that plan, even if you wish to do that, and you may not be able to avoid it, and your mother and your woman will be in the same house. My advice will be that, and this is difficult, like the both men have said, it is difficult if you're already not that type of a man who knows how to set boundaries, right? And this is not just setting boundaries for your mother, setting boundaries with friends, external factors, all sort of people, setting boundaries at work and all that. If you're not that type of a man, it's going to be very difficult when those situations arise that you don't have a choice but to have your mother and your wife living with you. And you may just need to turn to God and, to teach you and help you. It's unavailable at that point because you have to look after your mother. If it's health challenges, you don't have a choice, right? The Bible says that you have to look after them. And so you don't have a choice. The flip side to it is, if you're able to find a way, find help, seek help, right? Seek professional help, for people to be able to help you, find a mentor. I always talk to people, have a marriage mentor, right? There are mentors for everything. It's career mentor, there's parental mentor. And there's a marriage mentor as well. Make sure you have one who you can share with and say, look, this is what's going on. My wife is having these issues with my mother. I lack the skills or the capacity to be able to set the boundary. What has worked for you? Please borrow me, that map so I can thread that same path as well. That's
all right, thank you. Before I come to Aki, I want to ask the Pastor Dokolo with what Damola just said about there being a third option of health issues. Do you think that's a reason enough for you to move your mother in with you, or move your parents in with you?
Well, I mean, you see, the problem is not moving them in. The problem is what happens when they do come in. It's not every mother-in-law who has come in that's a burden. In fact, in some homes, but for the mother-in-law, there will be no marriage. You get it? In some homes, you won't even know whose mother she is. I don't know if you're getting
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So
Won't be
it's
able to
not every
separate.
mother-in-law. Yeah, there are some mother-in-laws that, but particularly those of you who are abroad, there are some of you today that is your mother-in-law, whether your mother, your father, the husband's mother, or the wife's mother. That's why you could pursue your 3 degrees and your 4 jobs. You get what I'm saying? So it's not every mother-in-law that is an aberration. No. But for those cases where a mother-in-law is a burden, so here you are the wife, your husband's mother has come for whatever reason, she's sick, blah blah blah, aged, all right, you and you are in this situation, you can't ask her to go again. We're assuming that this wife that we're talking about is well behaved. I don't know if you're getting it. We're assuming that she's okay, and all the problem is the mother-in-law. Sometimes the mother-in-law is responding to the misbehavior or the obvious shortcomings of the woman that is unmarried. I know a guy who eats more of bread and tea. This is a millionaire because the wife just doesn't want to cook. So what do you expect the mother of that boy to feel seeing her son suffering? Meanwhile, it's the man that is doing all the work, bringing all the money home. He brings the money home. The woman doesn't even have enough. She doesn't have enough time to make decent meals for the guy. Sometimes he will drive out of the house to go and buy just to, the quickest thing you can get. A rich man bringing money home and there's no food, and the mother is there. Will she be happy? No. So there's a lot at play here. All I would say to that woman is, and again, another thing I say is this: when life happens, deal with it. Okay. If you're in a situation where your mother-in-law is there, you're not going to kill her. She's not going anywhere. You manage her. Make the best of it until such a time as situation will change. They say nothing is permanent, both good and bad. So just wait it out until there's a change.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. I'm trying to rush through it because I know you, like the people in Nigeria, it's like almost 11:30 now. So, Aki, your quick thoughts on this issue of the in-law.
So, just a quick joke. If the mother-in-law or whoever, the husband's wife if the mother is sick and she's living with her, she's causing problem. In my opinion, she's not sick enough. If she's sick enough, she won't be causing issues in the house. So it's a delicate situation. After being married for 11 years now, the one thing I'm learning and I'm still learning is your marriage has to be bigger than anything, and it has to be bigger than everything. It has to be bigger than your mother-in-law. It has to be bigger than your father-in-law, right? And I think it's usually extreme cases where, prior to the mother-in-law coming in, you guys haven't really identified that there's a potential for friction. That's one. And then 2, I'm hoping that it's a joint decision, right? So that's another thing. And then also, a marriage that has existed for a minute, hopefully, I think there's something in being able to get to your significant other. Like, as much as it might be difficult, to let them, see your point of view, there's gotta be that button that you can push, or you can press that just lets them like, what, okay, maybe there's something here, right? And for us that we have the moms that are not a burden to our wives, or for us that have the courage to set the boundaries, good for us. But unfortunately, there are people out there that cannot. My only advice is, try to kill them with love. I mean, if they live within your house, like your building,
your space.
I mean, the only thing I can suggest is just try to kill them with love, and hopefully, eventually, and maybe
like Pastor said, there will always be an
things
end.
will work out, right?
Yeah.
And here in the US, we are so blessed too. Like, I mean, you reduce contact. Wake up in the morning,
Yeah.
go to work,
Yeah.
come back, tell your kids, take them to the park, eat dinner, enter your room. I mean, just limit contacts with them as much as possible. Unless you just marry a zombie, eventually your husband will pick up on it. Like, eventually your husband will pick up on it.
Okay, so this is the last part. Thank you all so much for that. Like, there are a lot that we needed to unpack, but we need to move fast. Now, I'm coming to you, Pastor Dokolo, because this question, the last when we had Pastor Tom Fadu and Pastor Moresh Makinde when we dealt with these questions, and the bulk of the questions we got that day were centered around sexual relationship in the home. And one that stood out for me was this issue of having sex toys in the house. Now, I'm asking this question to you as a man because when we brought those women for Pastor Tom, she's a pastor, yeah, and she has members that their husbands were in the military and they were both far apart. So I'm going to start with the nude picture. Now, as a Christian woman, should your spouse be asking for your nude pictures when they are out of town? Is it something women should do when their husbands ask them for it?
What do you want to do with a nude picture? There's a story I heard once of a lady. I think they had a male housemaid or something. And I think the woman went out and for some reason she came back home only for her to meet the housemaid, you know, the boy, the male help in the house, you know, sleeping on her nightgown. Do you understand? Yeah. So what do you want to do with her nude pictures? What it means is that you're probably trying to justify your preference for pornography, but you feel that it will feel better if it's your wife's pictures you are looking at, not somebody else's picture. I think that again, for us as Christians, the Holy Spirit is an enabler. He will help you to do what is right. Do you get? There's a problem. The solution is not in the nude pictures of your wife. That would not solve that problem. I would encourage that man to receive, I remember when my wife, traveled to America, the boy will be 8 this year, to go and have her last boy. Before then, all her children, she had them here in Nigeria, so we're together. So when she left to go and marry that boy, to go and have that boy, as she was about to leave, I went to the Holy Spirit. I said, "Dear Holy Spirit, when I was not yet married, so I was like any other guy on campus. My life was parties and girls. Then I got born again. All right? When I got born again, I said, Holy Spirit, now I'm born again. I don't want to do this anymore. Can you please give me the eunuch anointing?" All right? And you won't believe it. On more than one occasion, women would literally offer themselves to me naked. And I would turn my back and walk away. In fact, there was one time I said, "Okay, now I know you are born again." I was telling myself, I said, once upon a time, that woman fully dressed, I would chase her. Now she's naked and I walk out on her. I am truly born again. And I was like that until I got married. So when my wife was to go to America, I said, "Lord, you remember 20-something years ago, that conversation we had? Well, she's about to travel. We have never been separated for this long in a long time. And I don't want to kid myself. I'm surrounded by women in church, etc. So Lord, can you please give me back that eunuch anointing one more time?" Are you getting it? And for the next 6 months, sex was like, nothing to me, totally irrelevant. So, the Holy Spirit is so powerful, is so wonderful that he will manifest in any direction in which you want him to show forth in your life. You get it? It was when we're not talking about, oh, my wife will be back, maybe in a month's time, and I was planning to go and, meet her in America to dedicate that's when I said, Holy Spirit, I went back in the place of prayer. I said, Holy Spirit, we're coming back together. Can you please take this anointing off me?
Holy Spirit, activate now.
So don't. So, it's like this. There's a need. All right. There is a challenge. You are separated from your spouse. You have options. Option 1 is go to the Lord and ask him for grace. Option 2 is ask for her pictures. Let's see how far that will take you. It depends on what you are depending on. So, because I don't know what you're going to do with the pictures. So what are you going to do with it? So you look at nude pictures and then what happens? So I don't know. So, sometimes you can only talk about what you've experienced. That's why I'm sharing my experience. You get it? Yeah. It worked for me. The Holy Spirit is real. I do a lot of traveling, and there was a time I was in Ethiopia. And, I went so I asked them, I said, "Do you have a male masseur?" They said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, fine. Can I have a massage?" So the guy was massaging me, and the guy said to me, "You're a good-looking guy. Is your wife downstairs? Why did you ask for a male masseur?" I said, "No, my wife's in Lagos." He said, "Lagos, far away. What's your problem?" And I told him it's not about being far away in Lagos, So it depends on what you want to do. If you think all that God can do is give you money, that's all you will see of him. But if you think that God can keep you separate from your spouse and you'll be faithful for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, he will give you the grace. I mean, there's war in Ukraine now. We are hearing testimonies of bombs disappearing. We are hearing testimonies, of incredible in the war front in Ukraine right now, as we're speaking. Incredible things are happening there. So God is as big as you make him, even in this matter of sex. If you think that you need help and God cannot help you, then you will seek for help in other places. But if you go to God and say, "Lord, I don't want to let you down. I'm away from my wife for 6 months. I don't sleep with another woman. Take this thing away from me." And it will happen. Some people might think that I don't mind him, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's my reality. You are free to believe what you believe,
Okay, all right, sir. Before I go to the next person, the question just came in. They said, Pastor is speaking in terms of a spirit-filled man. What about men that aren't there yet?
Well, sorry, I can't help them. I can't help them. I'm sorry. They should go and
get spirit-filled. Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. So, Mike, let me come to you with that question. What's your own opinion about spouse requesting for nude pictures? In fact, not just nude pictures, this phone sex thing, like practicing phone sex or virtual sex as a Christian. What are your own thoughts about that?
Is that Mike Abdul?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I think with everything going on and leaks here and there, if you love your spouse, you won't even ask for such things. I'm trying to even take it away from being spiritual, but you really cannot take life out of being spiritual because everything happens there before it comes to the physical. You have thought of it in your mind. I mean, that's why Jesus Christ can as much as say that if you have thought of it, you've committed it already. So what's your own? Renew his mind, that kind of thing. So I would say that if you love her enough, if you love him enough, you won't even request for such things because, in fact, not even loving him or loving her, if you love yourself enough, you will not build that kind of habit for yourself because, let me tell you, masturbation is so strong that if you have gotten used to masturbation, that means after having sex with your partner, you still go and masturbate because you will never be satisfied. Masturbation is that you are the one that really knows your G-spot. You are the one that knows where to touch more than the other partner. Alright? So if you have gotten used to satisfying yourself, even after sex, you still need to satisfy. So it will now look like it's a demonic attack. It's not a demonic attack, it's a habit that you develop and you fed.
All right, thank you so much, sir. So, Damala, okay, let me come to Aki, so you're not always the last person I'm coming to. So, your own thoughts about the nude and phone sex, actually, not just nude. We've had issues of practicing phone sex or virtual sex and all that.
So for me, I've been fortunate. I think the longest my wife has been away from me is 3 weeks. And in the 3 weeks she was away, I was with the kids. So
there was even no time to check time.
I didn't have time for anything. So just speaking from that perspective, I mean, it's just not my style. Unfortunately, I'm more of a physical person. I need that thing in front of me. I be able to touch and things like that. So the picture thing, to Pastor's point, okay, so you get it. And then what? I mean, arouses you, and then you can't even finish because the person you're supposed to be involved with is not there, right? So my only opinion, you're only trying to trigger what you don't have to trigger. And then from a phone sex thing, again, same thing, masturbating while somebody's on the phone. I like anticipation, right? So y'all can talk, maybe when, a week, 2 days, or 3 days away. Yeah, you guys can have conversation to build anticipation, but like, you know, in fact, from the airport we are firing away, right? You know, and things like that. But it's just not my style, unfortunately. So sorry.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go back, piggyback to what Pastor Edokola said about, you know, he said like few months before he was to see his wife, he started asking, which is the anticipation that you were talking about. So,
I mean, it's work. I mean, to be honest, it's work. It's, you know, if your wife is going to be away for 3 months and you are used to, you know, roll over every morning and things like that, you have to engage yourself. So how do you stay busy and, you know, pray and all that stuff? But how do you engage your mind to where you're being productive? I'm using that time to be productive instead of, you know, thinking like, I've never engaged in sex with my wife after, you know, an extended period of time.
All right, thank you so much. So Damola, I'm going to ask you this one, so that we can just wrap up. Is it a sin for my wife to initiate sex? Okay, now I remember this question now because the guy that sent this question actually sent an epistle. It was long. Actually, it's funny when something is not affecting you, but these are issues that people are going through.
I'm sorry
so
if I'm watching, you know,
when he sent the question, he said, I like sex. My wife doesn't like sex. Now I initiate sex since we've been married, but I'm getting tired. So I need you to address these issues on your show. And because my wife watches you, she respects you and all that and all that. So let me ask you this thing. Is it a sin for my wife to initiate sex, or is it the job of the man?
So simple and short answer is no, it is not a sin. That it's as simple as that for me. I don't know what makes obviously without the context. I know you gave a bit of context, but I want to remove the context from it, right? As far as I'm concerned, and I think I will be speaking for most men, maybe not all men, but most men, it is not a sin. There is absolutely nothing wrong in it. We're all humans. We have feelings. We, for one reason or the other, a man could be tired and the lady is not tired, and she wants to get intimate, and she initiates it. It's a different conversation whether that initiation then leads into, you know, actual consents and all that. But there's absolutely nothing wrong, and that's the simple answer. Because of our time, I'm just going to give it.
Thank you so much. I want to assume we all agree on that. That there's nothing wrong.
So my only add-on to that is he said he's getting tired. Men naturally we are hunters, right? So when it comes to this, you know, sex thing, I don't think we have a problem. I will initiate sex 100,000 times. Where it becomes an issue is when you meet rejection. When you meet rejection over and over and over, that's where the tiredness usually comes in, right? So when you meet rejection, at some point you probably go, okay, come to me when it works for you, right? You know, and if the person is not now coming, it's like, then that's where it's an issue. There's a guy, you know, I know we're conscious of the time. There was a guy that created a spreadsheet, date, time, and every excuse his wife gave every time he initiated sex. On their wedding anniversary, he presented it to her. But again, unconsciously, women don't know how much, right? That they say, no, not today, tired. Justifiable or not, right? But over and over, as a man, it's not a feel-good feeling. So wife, if you're watching, your husband is tired, not that he's tired of initiating sex, he's probably tired of the rejection. He's probably tired of the rejection.
Okay, thank you so much. Pastor Dokwala, this is the last question, and I want you to tie it into all this sex thing. My husband wants sex every day, at least twice. I can't cope anymore. I want to leave him to take care of my kids. Advice, please.
That's abnormal. I think that's abnormal. As with most things in life, sometimes you find somebody who's an exception.
Yeah.
You know, so he might even need medical help. You know, what time do you have for that? Does it not work? You know, if he's employed, if he's gainfully employed, I don't think
You can be one in the morning before leaving and then at night. Since she said twice
Yeah,
a week.
I think that it might be tough for anybody who is seriously engaged to have that, amount of time to be demanding to the point where it's an issue. You get it? If it's something that you ask once in a year, twice in a year, 3 times, it won't be an issue. So my first question is, what does it do for a living? All right. Not having context makes some of these questions a bit difficult to respond to. So what does it do for a living?
Twice in a month. They say once in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does the guy do for a living? That's a good place to start. For him to have all that time, and then are they newlywed? That's another very, if they are newlywed, and there's, people who are on their honeymoon. Oh yes, why not? His honeymoon, he's dreamt of it all this while. So maybe, but after a while, you get tired of it. So if anybody who's been married for some time still has so much energy and time to demand like that, and I hear her talking about children, which means they've been at it for a while.
Maybe you should help take
For them to be talking about children, they've been at it for a while. So I would ask that, people sometimes need a bit more intimate counseling, if you like, than we can deal with in open fora like this, because half of what is at stake you don't know. You get it? Did they travel for some time and came back and made this demand over a short period? There are so many unknowns.
Follow-up questions.
A normal man, like we always say, I say to young people, if you have ever watched pornography, what you see on pornography is nothing related to reality. In fact, there was a young man that came to me. A pastor hears so many things. Sometimes you wonder how he copes. That young man has done pornographic films. And he said to me that they literally have to inject themselves to maintain an erection for that duration of time. They have to inject themselves. So if you are a normal guy and you are watching that and you think it's normal, I'm sorry. No normal man will have that energy to do 2 times a day or morning and evening. I think it's, otherwise he might be exceptional. So he might need help so that, your spouse can have a life beyond sex. All right.
Well, someone said some men don't get tired though. They can do 24/7. And I really like this question. So, you see, like Pastor Dakola said, some people might not be able to come out straight and just ask some questions. But what I have found out during the course of Real Talk with Odo is that a lot of things that we think are not normal are actually going on in families. They are going on in marriages.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that we really don't have the time today to just try. But this is the best we can do for today. I'm sorry. We are way past that time. So for all these questions, and like I said, when we talk about sex on Real Talk, it's always a major issue, which tells me there are a lot of things going on in marriages when it comes to sex. So I apologize. I'm sorry. I won't be able to take all these questions today. We really need to go. So I'm going to go to Mike Abdul to just give us our final thoughts, about everything we've talked about today. Your final thoughts, your final opinion. Shola is being a clown in front of me right now. So let me ask you, Bishop Mike, your final thoughts.
Well, it's a marriage relationship. Basically, I would just say that don't wait for your husband to love you before you honor him, like the Bible says. And for the man, I will also say that don't wait for your wife to honor you before you love her. If it is to love her, love her. If it is to honor him, honor him. I think everything, that's the foundation of everything. I think that's where we'll take it from.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you, Bishop Mike Abdul. Let me come to you, Damola.
My last thoughts would go back to the first thing I said when we started talking about these marriage questions or marital questions is communication and being aligned. That is it for me. Of course, it goes without saying, faith, seek the face of God, make sure, spiritually you're making the right decisions and all. But what prayer will not do for you is that communication. Talk about everything, discuss about everything, have joint goals, whether financial, whether every aspect of your marriage needs to be aligned and talked about. Sex, money, children, everything. Nothing is off the table. The moment you start taking things off the table,
Yes,
that
okay.
is a disaster waiting to happen.
Wow. Thank you so much, Damola and Akin.
All right. So my final thought. I think I've left Nigeria a minute now, so mine will be kind of like based on US, right? So one thing, every once in a while, you go get your oil changed before your check engine light comes on, before there's any kind of indicator that there's a problem, right? Once a year, we get a wellness check at the hospital. Once a year, we go to the dentist.
Yeah.
We get our mouth cleaned. My advice is, get a marital wellness check, regardless of the state of your marriage. You don't have to wait until there are issues. So there are different ways you can, in my opinion, where you can do a wellness check. You can meet with a spiritual leader. You can actually go to a professional marriage counselor. There are resources out there that you can utilize to get a marital wellness check. Just to understand the state of your marriage, where it's at, how you can take it to the next level. If you are blessed, where everything is going great, where there's always a next level, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if everything is going great, then how can you elevate it to the next level? And again, one thing I'm still learning is nothing can be bigger than your marriage. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Akin. So Pastor Dokola, can you run this up for us, sir? Your final thoughts.
Somebody said something about being spiritual, and I think that's where it comes down to. I'm saying this not because I'm a pastor. I wasn't born a pastor. I haven't always been a pastor. But what I have learned is that when you learn to trust the Lord, God is as interested in every aspect of us as you can imagine. All right, from sex to politics to money, name it. God has an interest. So if there's anything I've learned is the more you learn to walk with the Lord, the easier it is to navigate the different challenges of life. So I would say that every one of us should seek to become more spiritual, whatever that means for you. For me, it means just learning to, follow the Lord, read the Bible, understand it, and in its plain simplicity, honor it. And when you do that, you discover that all these things fall into place and life becomes a whole lot easier to navigate. So become a spiritual person. That would be my, parting thoughts on this. And that sorts you out on all sides. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. So they're all saying thank you, sirs. Someone said my night is made. Thank you to all the speakers. We really appreciate your time, and we really apologize to Pastor Dokolo and Bishop Mike. We're sorry. We know it's like almost 12 a.m. in Nigeria. We are so sorry. We had a lot to cover up for today. And like I said, this is actually the first time we are bringing men on the show. So we might be calling on you all back again, maybe in another year's time. It'll be like a once in a year thing. But I personally appreciate each and every one of you. Bishop Mike, you didn't even tell me we'll be color coding. You didn't tell me we'll be, we'll be matching. Did you see? Anyway, thank you so much. Damola, thank you so much, friend. I really appreciate you. My love to your wife and your kids. Thank you so much. And Pastor Dokolo, we are sorry. Thank you so much. We appreciate the sacrifice personally. I know this is a huge sacrifice on your part. I know. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, sir. And we hope you will say because we took longer time today, you won't come back the next time we call you.
I enjoyed myself, so I look forward to another time.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure to spend time with you.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, Akin. You don't have any other choice. Even if you don't come, I'll come and pick you up. You have a choice. Thank you all so much, and for everyone that contributed, everyone that said that sent questions. Once again, I apologize. We don't have time to address all the questions, but we will go back to our normal self. Our vavoom on the show next time. But the next time we're going to 26th. I'm out of town next week, so I will see you all on the 26th of March. And I am still your friend. I'm still your sister. I'm still my mother's daughter, as you all know. My name is still Odra Kelele. I'll see you all next time. Bye.